In this playthrough of Pokemon White, my team will never stay the same, and what I mean by that is that every time I beat a gym leader, I'm forced to start over and create an entirely different team. And to make it harder, I can only choose from one route per gym, and Species Clause is active. This means I could possibly go into a super challenging gym with a horrible team, and trust me, some of these teams get really bad. So make sure to stick around to the end of the video, and make sure to like, subscribe, do all the fancy stuff. And with that, let's get into this playthrough of Pokemon White. Of course, to start any playthrough, we have to pick our starter. And of course, we have our basic and open choices in Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott. And I haven't even really used Tepig in any Unova playthrough, so for the first time ever, I'm going to choose Tepig. Also, yes, I'm serious. This is the first time I've ever used Tepig in any playthrough. Next up is the rival battle between Bianca and Sharon, and obviously the battles were easy, winning both of them. Darn, it's the first battle. Do I even have to show them? But yeah, anyway, I named Tepig Big T, and he has the modest nature, and he has the ability Blaze as well. Now in round 1, we can find our first encounter in a Lillipup that I named Maul, and a Patrat that I named Scout. Anyway, Maul has a modest nature and has the ability Vital Spirit, and Scout has a relaxed nature, and he also has the ability Run Away. But now we can actually move on to an important matchup. After hearing Team Plasma's speech, we can now battle N. He of course leads with the Purloin, and after a super boring exchanges of tackles and scratches, we take out N's Purloin, winning the battle super easily. Yeah, maybe N's first battle wasn't as important as I remember it being. But now it's time to get to the important parts of the video. The reason you picked up on this video, the gym battles. And we have to take on Crest in Striaton City, and he sends out Lillipup, and Big T takes it out with a 2-shot crit tackle. Next is, of course, his Ace Panpour, and then I switch to Maul, and Crest spams Focus Energy, and I spam Tackle, and we easily win the Trio Badge, pretty underwhelmingly, not gonna lie. And now it's time to say goodbye to the OG Route 1 Big 3. So we head on over to Route 3, and we can find 3 new Pokemon in Pidove, which I named Farb, and we can also find a Purloin, and I named him Liar. And finally, we can of course find a Blitzel, and I name him Bolt. Anyway, Farb has a docile nature and also has the ability Big Pecs, and Liar also has a lonely nature with the ability Limber, and last but not least, we have Bolt, my personal favorite, and he has a relaxed nature with the ability Lightning Rod, as most electric types have. And with that, this will be the team that we take on Lenore with, and of course, if you want an update on the Team Plasma storyline, we're still putting Belt against a bunch of grunts. Now we have to take on an actual good member of just our regular rival N, and anyway, yeah, we both start out with a Pidove, so I lower it, switching into Bolt, and a Shockwave takes out N's Pidove. Next up is a Timple, and yeah, you can assume what happens similarly to Pidove. Finally is a Timber though, and I paralyze it, switching into Farb, and we easily take it out with an Air Cutter. Also, before the next gym, we can evolve Liar from a Purloin into a Liepard, but now we have to take on the second gym leader, Lenora. She of course leads with her Herdier, and I led with Liar and start setting up Sand Attack, getting Herdier down to -3 accuracy and into yellow before Herdier takes out Liar. And I do want to remind, I know I do Nuzlocks on this channel, but this is just a regular playthrough since my team's going to change regardless, so I am giving a break. Anyway, I switched to Bolt, and a Shockwave plus Para takes it out. Next up is Lenore's infamous Watchog, and I paralyze it the first turn, and a rollout does way too much, and after a horrible flame charge that doesn't do anything, a bite from Watchog takes us out. And now we're down to our final Pokemon, Pidove. And she goes for an Air Cutter, but that doesn't do anything at all. And Watchog puts us to sleep the next turn. We wake up 2 turns later, though, and after what had to have to be like 50 roosts, I'm not gonna lie, we end up taking down Watchog with an Air Cutter when Watchog was 1 HP. And after an insanely boring battle, we win the Basic Badge. A basic badge for a basic battle. And a little bonus treat for us, Farb evolved into Tranquil, so that's pretty fun. Of course, we need new team members now that we've beaten Lenore, and heading over to Pinwheel Forest where we find our first encounter is a Swaddle. I catch it and I name her Punch, and we can find a Petalil as well, and I named her Lily. How creative. Our final encounter, though, is something that is actually solid against the gym leader Bird, though, and we find a Venipede, and we name it Scrags, with a Z, so you know she's cool. Punch has an impish nature and has the ability Swarm, and Lily has a lonely nature with the ability Own Tempo, and finally Scrags has a bashful nature with the ability Swarm as well. And honestly, this isn't the best team for Berg, not gonna lie, but before we test our skills again, we can evolve Punch into a Swabloon as well as Scrags from Venipede to Whirlipede. Now it's time for the moment of truth for our Pinwheel Forest ass team, as we have to challenge Berg. He sends out a Whirlipede and I do the same, but then I swap into Punch as soon as possible to see how much a regular tackle would do, and it didn't do anything, and a Poison Tail does just below half, so I keep in Punch for a sacrifice and she gets taken out. As Whirlipede is now in the red, now causing Berg to heal immediately, so I send in Lily and I set up a Leech Seed as I send out Scrags and spam Iron Defenses, as Leech Seed forces Berg to use his last Hyper Potion, and eventually after spamming Pursue suit, we take out his Whirlipede, so the rest of the team should be pretty much easy. As next is Dwebble, as I switch into Petalil, since it's half rock and I Smackdown, it doesn't do a lot, and 2 Razor Leafs takes out Dwebble, as Burry sends out his Ace Levani, and I try to set up Leech Seed, but Levani is faster and it takes out Lily, and Scraggs gets revenge for Lily with a crit Poison Tail, and we win the Insect Badge. Before we say goodbye to this somewhat solid team, we have to battle Bianca one more time, as she actually is good and she leads with a Herdier, as I lead with Petalil and I set up a Leech Seed so she can eventually get the KO, as she sends out Mana next, and more Leech Seed gets it low and she sends out Servine, so I swap into Whirlipede and KO with a few Poison Tails, and of course we also have to KO Mana in a one-shot since it was already low, and lastly is a Panpour, and since we have Petalil, we swap into her and Oko with a Giga Drain. Now we have to find our next team on Route 4, as we first run into a Sand Isle. I catch it and name it Gary, and our second edition ended up being a Darumaka, and I named Zend. And lastly, our third party member we can find is a Scraggy that I named Trouse because of those big ass trousers. As for the abilities and whatnot, Gary has the ability Moxie with a bold nature, and Zen has a naughty nature with the ability Hustle, and of course we have Scraggy that has Moxie, which is super plus, with a calm nature. And now this mysterious man is telling me to ride a Ferris wheel with him. Wonder what he'll tell me. After N told me he's a femboy twink that is also a Sawara, after he told me he's the king of Team Plasma, all of a sudden he wants to battle as he leads with a Sandile, and I led with Trouse, easily KOing with a Brick Break. And I'm gonna be real, Moxie almost carried this entire fight. We just OHKO'd at least almost his entire squad of Pokemon he can talk to, meaning not only is he a twink and a Zoroa, he is also a furry. But of course we're in Nimbasa City, meaning we have to take on one of the best gym leaders in the game, Elisa. She of course leads with that annoying Volt switching Emolga as I lead with Zen. And to no one's surprise, Emolga goes for a Volt switch, bringing in another Emolga, as Zen goes for a Fire Punch that gets Emolga into Deep Red, and after a heal, I one-shot with a Facade. And next up is Emolga that Volt switches into Substrika immediately, getting Substrika into a red after a Facade will again, and Elisa heals up quickly, and I go for another Facade, getting her down to 5 HP once again. This is going to get really repetitive, trust me, but anyway, she then goes for a quick attack and then takes out Zen. I then send out Gary, and it may be faster, but Gary tanks a Flame Charge, and after a bite, takes out Substrika, and we do the same to Emolga thanks to Moxie, and we win the Bolt Badge. We're now halfway through, 4 badges deep, as on Route 16, we can find a Solosis that I named Alien, and a Minchino that I named Chilla, and finally a Trubbish that I named Hero, because Trubbish line is truly an underrated hero. Also, yes, I spelled it the Japanese way. It's cooler, okay? Anyway, Solosis has a serious nature with the ability Magic Guard. Minchino has a naive nature and has the ability Technician, and our Hero has the ability Stench with a relaxed nature. And honestly, we don't really have the greatest team ever for our gym badge against Clay. Also, I just want to say I won't be really focusing on the rival battles or the other battles like that anymore, because I do want to get this video out very quick, and this is a video focused on gyms, so I just want to say, let me know if you want a part 2 of this video showing the entire continuing the story in Pokemon White 2. Also, not gonna lie, the other reason is because I need to get this video out quick. I might have already said that, but whatever. For our 5th gym battle against Clay, the video didn't even record, so I'm just gonna have to summarize it with horrible visuals. Anyway, he ends up leading with a Krokorok as I led with Chilla, and go for a Sing, and 2 Swifts ends up taking it out. Next is Palpitoad, and the Sing from Chilla misses as it sets up Aqua Ring, and another Sing misses as Muddy Water doesn't do much to Chilla, thankfully. Finally, we land a Sing and get Palpitoad's attack down to -3 with Charm, and a few Swifts takes it out, and Clay sends out his final Pokemon, Excadrill, so I send out Alien as it sets up Home Claws, and I start spamming Ancient Power after a Future Sight. It gets it down to 1 HP, and Alien also gets off a Bulldoze, taking Alien down to 1 HP as well, but thankfully Future Sight wins, and we claim our Quake Badge. Well, that was a weird summary, but anyway, for the next gym, we can head on over to Route 6, where we can find 4 new encounters for the first time this video instead of 3, being Tundra, the Deerling, Noelle, the Carablast. I named her Noelle because Carablast is trade you, and I have no friends to trade it to. And anyway, we also got Mushman the Fungus, and last but not least, Purple the Autono, because that's the color 100%. And before we get to the next gym as well, we can also evolve Tundra into a winter form Starsbuck. Also, I didn't even know this, but we can also find a Vanillite on this route, but anyway, I stuck to the theme and I named him Cone Man, We can immediately evolve him as well into a Vanillish, and anyway, Coneman has an adamant nature, and also has the ability Ice Body, but then I immediately accidentally overleveled him, because I forgot to turn my XP mod on, so we can't even use him for the 6th gym battle, which sucks, because our next gym is against the flying type gym leader of Unova, Skyla. She sends out Swoobat, so I start with purple. As it goes for amnesia, I then send out secret power, and it immediately gets a paralysis. I then switch out from purple into Mushman, as Swoobat gets paralyzed the next turn, but after that, Swoobat speeds up, and the Heart Stamp gets a flinch, but thankfully, we get a paralysis the next turn, and Mushman lands a Feint Attack, causing Skyla to heal up. After more Feint Attacks and more paralysis, we cause her to also waste another Hyper Potion, her last Hyper Potion too, and Feint Attack takes it out after that. And next out is an Unpheasant, as I sacrifice Mushman after a quick attack, and thanks to Effect Spore, we get the paralysis on Unpheasant. I swap back into purple, and a few takedowns and a double slap take it out, but this unfortunately gets purple super low into yellow as Skyla sends out Swanna, her ace. And unfortunately, Swanna outspeeds and goes for a Bubble Beam to get the KO. I fell back into the corner, and I was, and eventually Swanna ends up taking out Tundra and Karrablast with an Air Slash, losing our first gym battle. But this isn't a Nuzlocke, so the run is not over. This time against Skyla, I start with Mushman, and I guess I thought I could get Effect Spore, but Swoobat just one-shots with an Acrobatics. I then send out Tundra, and we two-shot with Feint Attack, but got deep into yellow with an Acrobatics again. I then sacrificed Tundra to Unpheasant, but thankfully we got off a Leech Seed, and I send in Noelle for a sacrifice, and unfortunately it doesn't do that much, and it pretty much just goes down in vain, not gonna lie. But I save purple for this moment, and Takedown ends up taking down Unpheasant, no pun intended, doing basically nothing to purple. And lastly is Swanna, but it's different this time, taking down Swanna with Takedown again, and we earn the Jet Badge after many failed attempts that I didn't show, and I'm not telling you how many failed attempts there were 7. Next up is the match against Price, and since we can only find one Mon on Route 7, I'm going to be counting both Route 7 and the Twist Mountain encounters. So to start on Route 7, I found a Cubchoo that I immediately evolved into Beartic, who has the ability Snow Cloak, and that's all for the Route 7 encounters, so it's time to head over to Twist Mountain, where I found a Drillbur, a Boldore, and a Woobat. I immediately evolved Drillbur into Excadrill, and it has the ability Sand Force with a hardy nature. Next up is Boldore, who I named Kevin Durant for whatever reason, and he has an adamant nature with the ability Sturdy, of course. And finally, we have Woobat, that I'm too lazy to evolve into Swoobat, also because I think it's ugly, but anyway, it has the ability Klutz and it has a lonely nature, and honestly, this team won't be the greatest to take on an Ice-type gym leader at Bryson. But thankfully, this battle wasn't as hard as I thought it was, as he starts with a Vanillish, as I start with Boldore. As it goes for an Acid Armor, I started setting up Stealth Rock and Iron Defenses, and 2 Rock Slide gets it down to yellow, but unfortunately, we get taken down in 2 moves to a 2 crit Frost Breath. That's okay though, as Poobie gets revenge immediately with a Surf, as Bryson sends out his own Beartic, and unfortunately, we lose Beartic, but again, the next move, our next Pokemon, which ended up being Excadrill, took it out. Lastly, we have Cryogonal, and honestly, we easily took this thing out with a super effective Slash, and we won the Freeze Badge. Now we're at the end of the gym run, but unfortunately we can only find 2 encounters in a Minfu and a Ponyard. 2 babies that we can't even fully evolve because of the level cap against the strongest gym leader that uses what is considered to be the strongest type, and that is the entire team for the 8th gym, except for one. Remember the Vanillish that I accidentally overleveled? Well, guess what? Since technically I didn't use it in the 6th gym, I'm going to be allowing myself to use it now. Since technically I never used it, and this is changing my team every gym, not catching only 1 Pokemon per gym or something like that. Honestly, going into this battle against Iris, I was pretty cocky as she sent out Fracture, and of course I send out the GOAT Cone Man. That's right, he's back, and he's one-shotting Fracture with an Ice Beam. Next out is the Druddigon, and I set up Hail, but Druddigon goes for Revenge, which is not good at all, getting Cone Man down to deep yellow, and an Ice Beam the next turn doesn't heal, but a Revenge from Druddigon does. So I send out Chop Chop, and Iris heals up with Druddigon as I go for a Jump Kick, and it surprisingly does a lot, and a few Drain Punches gets it back to yellow as a Dragon Tail leaves Minfu on 5 HP, and then he sends out Sir John, so I outspeed, and a Feint Attack gets it down to red, and Minfu on 5 HP is up next, and a Drain Punch kills, healing us up to barely 15 HP. Attaxorus is last. Honestly, I thought the video was over, but I decided to max revive Cone Man since I never used an item this entire playthrough and completely forgot that this wasn't a Nuzlocke, and we got the KO with just 2 Ice Beams, so controversially, we win the Legend Badge. I thought the video was over, but now it's time for the Elite 4. However, it is actually the end of the video because my recording software stopped entirely after that, and I didn't even realize it until I beat Getchus and N, and that's the end of the video. Sorry for the anticlimactic ending. It's better anyway since I need to get this video out ASAP. But yeah, if you want to see me continue this on Pokemon White 2, let me know. And I may do a randomized version of this in the future. And you've already made it this far, you might as well subscribe. Seriously, what's stopping you?